Good evening, everybody, and welcome into another podcast of the New England Sports Weekly show. As I F that one up, kind of like I was boom goes the dynamite. Let's cut that and take it again. No, we're doing this live. But anyways, welcome into another episode of New England Sports Weekly. There we go. That sounds a lot better, folks. As we get ready to dive into a pretty loaded show. Now, I'm not going to lie, it's not going to be a fun show. It may be a little bit cathartic here for a lot of fans that are listening tonight because it is dealing with a lot of what's gone on over the last 2 weeks. Because I do apologize for not having one last week, but I had some personal stuff going on. It was all good personal stuff, but it was I just wasn't able to do a Thursday show, and kind of with the holidays going on, it was kind of tough to get one in last week. But we are nonetheless here tonight, and we got a lot to talk about. So we will definitely dive right in here in just a moment. But I do wish all of you this happy holiday season. As far as if you're any of my Jewish friends and listeners out there, happy Hanukkah, as I know that started on what was it, Sunday night, and obviously to everybody out there celebrating Christmas, Merry Christmas out there as well. But so hope you're having a Merry Christmas or Happy Holiday, whatever you celebrate. It's right in the smack dab in the middle of that season. So it's going to be Christmas on Sunday. So I'm sure everybody's out there just running around grabbing presents as well. So have fun with that. If you're listening to the podcast right now and you're out there driving around trying to find that last minute Christmas gift, good luck to you. We wish you the best. But hopefully we'll entertain you on your car drive in or out, or while you're walking around the store. If you're listening on your earbuds, we wish you the best. Hopefully you don't have to crawl over too many mountains of people to get what you're looking for. Just trust me, I've done that before, and it sucks. We're going to use that word a lot tonight because there's been a lot of sucking around here as far as the Patriots and the Red Sox, and it has just not been fun. Not fun at all. And without further ado, we will get into our out of the box segment. So last week, as we the 2 weeks ago, as we left you before, was pretty much the eve of, well, not the eve of free agency, but that was smack dab in the middle of the winter meetings a couple of weeks ago. And I remember specifically being happy and a little upbeat because the Red Sox had signed Chris Martin, not the Coldplay singer, but the former Dodgers reliever, a pretty good middle reliever, along with Kenley Jansen, the former Dodger, and spent the last couple of years with the Atlanta Braves. He's kind of not completely returned to form, but he is a pretty solid, rock solid closer there for you. He's not the top 5 closer that he was back in like 2014 through 2018, that range there, but still a very good closer. Remember, we left off with that, along with the Red Sox signing the Japanese outfielder Masataka Yoshida, who was a hits machine and on-base machine over in Japan. So obviously we talked about maybe that would translate and what our wishes were for the Red Sox. Well, folks, as we get into the out-of-box segment here, the biggest news that broke at midnight, technically not that day, but you catch the drift, midnight, that only, 3-4 hours after we were done with the live show. I remember right before I went to bed, because I was watching a Celtics game, I got an alert from one of the zillion sports not shows, but one of the sports apps that I have on my phone, between the ESPNs and Bleacher Reports and all those. I remember seeing right like just after 12:30, Xander Bogaerts has signed an 11-year contract for $280 million with the San Diego Padres. So it has obviously been a couple weeks, but obviously we're catching up on a lot of things that have gone on here. But the Boston Red Sox have lost their franchise cornerstone at short, as he is heading to the West Coast to play, presumably shortstop, for the San Diego Padres. And my God, it must be nice to be a Padres fan. I don't know many of them, but must be nice. you get what you want. They went and traded for Juan Soto. You have Manny Machado. You got Xander Bogaerts now. And obviously, I know kind of everything going on with Fernando Tatis Jr., but I mean, when he's healthy, when he's not popping steroids or getting caught for him anyways, he's a pretty good player. But of course, that's kind of a whole mess. But obviously, that team is loaded. Their pitching staff with Blake Snell and Yu Darvish, and of course, they've made some other moves as well. It's just anything, and they went and got Joe Hader last year. Must be nice to have a team that wants to compete, for titles. It must be very, very nice. So he's out in the West Coast with the Padres. And obviously, the Red Sox have lost out on pretty much every major option there is at shortstop to replace Bogaerts. Now, of course, we'll get into how they're looking to replace him and everything that kind of went on. But of course, the free agent market is pretty much dried up. Pretty much all the top 25 players are pretty much off the board. Needless to say, at this point, all the major four shortstops are gone. I mean, we already knew Trey Turner was gone before our show even started a couple of weeks ago. But since then, since Xander Bogaerts, Dansby Swanson signed with the Cubs, and Carlos Correa was going to sign with the Giants. Then a physical happened. The Giants didn't like what was on that physical, and the Mets swooped in last night, like only a couple hours later, and lo and behold, Carlos Correa's on the Mets team, which they've loaded up as well. Even after losing to DeGrom, they've loaded up still with getting Verlander and now bringing back Conforto, and now you have Carlos Correa to add to that lineup that already has Francisco Lindor. And of course, we can't forget about Polar Bear Pete there in Pete Alonso. So that's a pretty good Mets lineup as well. Oh, man, it's nice to watch all those teams out there go spend money. Oh, it must be. Hey, the Red Sox have a top 5 budget. I wonder what moves they made. Oh, not a damn thing. Not a damn thing. I mean, I never thought Aaron Judge was going to be a realistic option, but obviously he went off the board with a huge contract. Anybody that had a good bat is gone off the market as far as free agency is gone. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But of course, the big news was Xander Bogaerts signing with the San Diego Padres, leaving the Red Sox a gaping hole at shortstop and a gaping hole in the middle of the order as well, leaving Rafael Devers and Trevor Story as your only legitimate bats that you have in the lineup. And we'll talk about that a little bit more here in just a moment. And obviously, since we last left you, the New England Patriots have played 2 games. They did win their Monday nighter against the Arizona Cardinals, 27-13. So they did put up some points there, although they were aided by the defense in that game. But Mac did look pretty good against the Cardinals. Then it was the tale of two halves, not really 2 halves, but the tale of 2 games when it comes to the Patriots, because they had what was supposed to be a Sunday night game turned into a 4:05 start out in Vegas. And the Patriots they came out flat in the first half. They were down 13-3, and it did not look good there. It looked like the Patriots were going to walk away. We're going to have to walk out of Vegas empty-handed. And then they turned things around in the second half. Of course, Kyle Duggar had that fumble, had that pick-off return for the touchdown to cut it to 13-10. And then the Patriots ended up going ahead 24-17 late in that game. And I didn't end up seeing it live because I did have some prior engagements that I had going on. But I remember where I was. I just kept trying to step outside, trying to watch that game on my phone because I was desperately trying to see how this was going to end. I missed the live play of the touchdown by Keelan Cole that should have been an incomplete pass, but that was called, tied the game. But then the Patriots lost in utterly embarrassing fashion on when the game was tied. They should have gone to overtime. They lost on a just horrible attempt at a lateral or whatever, or however that started. But that lateral got picked off when Jacoby Myers tried to toss it over to Mac Jones, and another Jones, Chandler Jones, and another former Patriot, Chandler himself, picked it off, returned it 48 yards for a walk-off fumble return touchdown. It was so embarrassing. So embarrassing. But the Patriots are still technically alive for a playoff spot. So if you want to try to look on the right side of things, they're still alive. They're 7-7, as they have a tough schedule here, and that will start with a Saturday game on Christmas Eve against the Cincinnati Bengals at home. So at least they do have home field advantage. But again, could be a tough one there against the defending AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals, who themselves are just starting to pick things up as they've gotten Jamar Chase back. They are starting to get healthy again. They've gotten Joe Mixon back. So it has been anything but easy for these Patriots down the stretch. We will get into that as well. And of course, Robert Williams has returned for the Boston Celtics as well, although they have had a little bit of a bumpy stretch here, as they did take a loss to the Golden State Warriors at home. I mean, on the road, they did have a really good comeback against the Los Angeles Lakers. And then they've inexplicably dropped 2 in a row against the Orlando Magic, they're okay, but they're not great. And they are, wow. Oh my. I can't give away play-by-play because I don't want my podcast ripped down, but let's just say if you want another just gut punch there, go look at what's going on with the Celtics right now. So they are in a little bit of a rough patch here, if we are going to say so here, as they are down big. That's all I can say. They are down big as far as to the Indiana Pacers right now. So the Celtics did get a boost, but so far it hasn't really panned out for them, though, because they are just taking it off the chin here tonight. And man, that's tough. But again, it's still early in the season, so you knew they were going to have a few bumps in the road here. So I'm not panicking, but it's a little disconcerting to see how this is kind of going right now. But they're 1-5. 1-4 over their last 5 games. They only win against the Lakers in that big comeback, and they would have been on a 5-game skid here if they didn't have that huge comeback against the Lakers. So it's a little bit of a bumpy road here, but a little bit of a brighter side here. The Boston Bruins, they did dismantle the Florida Panthers at home 7-3. And they also beat the Columbus Blue Jackets 4-2. So they are on a little mini streak of their own. So good things in the garden with the Boston Bruins, as they are still rolling themselves. We will see how things roll here tonight. But anyways, that is your out of the box segment, still brought to you by myself and brought to you in my sick, ugly sweater that is Grogu from The Mandalorian. Gotta love it. But anyways, as we talked off a couple minutes ago, we have to start with some recent things here. And of course, that's the New England Patriots. And it was just talked about, they lost in ugly, embarrassing fashion Sunday. I just can't believe I've watched that clip over and over again of Ramondre Stevenson breaking away for what, 20 plus yards, 25, 20, almost 30, whatever it was. And of course, there was no time left by that time. So it's not like he can just run out of bounds, because he definitely got into field goal range, but they ran out of time. And instead of just kneeling, getting tackled, push out of bounds, and say, all right, we're going to overtime, tied 24-24. We'll take our chances there. They tried to be, both Ramondre Stevenson and Jacoby Myers tried to be the hero. Ramondre, for whatever reason, laterals it over to Jacoby Myers, who Jacoby Myers basically handled that thing like a hot potato, saying like, I don't want this. I really don't know what to do. And threw it over to the one person on the Patriots offense that everybody at least you would think looks up to, with Mac Jones. And before Mac had any attempt to even get it, Chandler Jones picked it off. It was just awful. Awful. Why you didn't play for overtime, I don't know. And I mean, those are two of your smarter players on offense in Ramondre and Jacoby. So unless they hate this coaching staff, which at this point in the season, with how just awful the offense has looked in a majority of these games, with the exception of the Baltimore and the Minnesota game, and really that might be it. I guess if you want to, I really went through Arizona in there, but really a handful of games, if at most, they've looked like a competent NFL offense. Other than that, they've just had so many bumps in the road. It's surprising they've won 7 games, and it's not to the fault of Mac Jones or Ramondre or Jacoby Myers. It's obviously this coaching staff, we'll get here into a second, is just, I'm not talking Bill. I mean, Bill has a lot to do with bringing these guys in, but I'm just talking about the Matt Patricias and the Joe Judges, who should not have even been assigned to the offense. I mean, unless this was a rebellion at the very end of the game because you didn't trust them to draw anything up in overtime. But still, I mean, I can't imagine them just doing this on their own unless they were so pissed off at the coaching staff. So again, I just don't know why that happened. Why aren't you playing for overtime? Why wasn't somebody just screaming at one of those guys to just take a knee, get tackled with the ball, and take it to overtime? Time was off the clock, and it was just embarrassing. But it's been a microcosm of the season. It really has. And honestly, that had to have been the most embarrassing loss I've ever seen as a Patriots fan. Ever. I mean, I thought last year's pummeling to the Bills in the playoffs was embarrassing and humbling, but at least you made it to the playoffs. You made it there. But and you just got beat fair and square. Not that this wasn't fair, but you got beat down, and you didn't make a dumb mistake like that. This was an embarrassing loss from the standpoint of you still had a chance to win. And yes, did you get screwed on that touchdown call? Yes, you did. You certainly did, because let me tell you this. And if I know some people out there on social media try to show that screen grab of Keelan Cole's touchdown, saying because they're not paying attention to his goddamn cleats that he has on that have a black strip at his toe, which that's why there's quote unquote people that say, oh, there's space. There's not space. It's because he's got a black strip or black leather, vinyl, whatever the stupid cleats are made out of. You can see the material, the black material on the toe of the cleat, and then there's the white portion of the cleat as well. But his foot is clearly his toe is clearly out of bounds. So it should have been an incomplete pass. But somehow the NFL, in all its goddamn wisdom, called this a touchdown. But God forbid Hunter Henry doesn't let the ball touch the ground, but it just kind of moves in his hands a little bit. But he still has the goddamn ball, and that's not a touchdown. But you call this piece of crap a touchdown. And I don't mean the player. To calm down, folks. I'm talking about that call, because that's not a touchdown. That was not a touchdown. I am sure as shit that's not a touchdown. He was out of bounds, but you still had a chance to win the game. And for some reason, you decided to lateral the football when all you had to do is get tackled and you go to overtime. And yes, obviously you stand a chance of losing in overtime, but guess what? You don't lose on a dumb play. You don't lose on an idiotic play. I have never seen so many dumb mistakes out of a Patriots team in my life. This is ridiculous. And it all goes back to the coaching. It all goes back to this coaching staff. And obviously, Bill Belichick at the head of it, he's obviously the ultimate to blame. He brought in Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. He brought them in. And he brought in his buddies to run the offense. Where if you polled the rest of the 29 other teams in the NFL how this was going to go, they probably would have said the same thing as us as fans would have said, that this was going to end horribly. And we all predicted this back in May or April, whenever this theory came out that this was going to be how it was going to go. Because remember, for a while there was, well, maybe it's going to be tight ends coach Nick Caley might take it over, who I wish they would, the last 3 weeks of the season, give Nick Caley an audition. But that wasn't the case. They handed it over to Patricia, and Judge is like the assistant to the bumbling idiot there. And it just has not been coherent at all. And I know people brought up Mac Jones's outburst in the Cardinals game and in the Raiders game that he's had. But can you honestly blame him? Can you blame him? Yes, it's not the best look. I totally agree. It's not a good look at all for your franchise quarterback to act like a petulant child. But can you blame him? You gave him a failed head coach who the last time he coached anything to do with offense was back in 2005. 2005. How many years ago? 13, 14 years ago? It's ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. I just don't know. I don't know how Robert Kraft can allow this to keep on happening. So it's just utter ridiculousness that people want to bitch and moan that Mac is the problem. And listen, this was Mac's worst game that he's probably had in his pro career. I know he's had some games with more interceptions, but this has to be his worst game as a pro, because he attempted 32 passes, 30 or 32, and he completed 13. He missed a wide open Jonnu Smith in the end zone. It's just ridiculous. I don't get it. But honestly, he had a bad game. This hasn't been his best year, but he's cutting a shit sandwich. And he's had to sit there, and he had to sit there and smile for a little bit, and finally he's like, no, I can't do this anymore. And he's had those outbursts. And can you really blame Mac Jones for having those outbursts on the sideline? No, you can't. You can't blame him. This man has had to deal with Matt Patricia as his offensive coordinator. He's had to deal with Joe Judge, and I just don't know why anybody would heap any of that blame on Mac. As far as, well, I can understand a little bit, but why you would put the majority of it on Mac? He does not really have an offensive coordinator. It's just Patricia in name only. And Matt Patricia's got that stupid Denny's menu, like he's there at Denny's at 2:00 in the morning, hung over, looking at his play sheet, like, well, I don't know what to get. I don't know what to order. And 15 seconds come off the play clock, and he still hasn't really given Mac a great play to go with, and he's still in Mac's ear. And Mac, we saw last year with Josh McDaniels with a really good offensive coordinator, and I know people want to give Josh McDaniels crap, and I know some people got sick of some of the some of those predictable plays or some of the things that Josh was doing, but he's a really good offensive coordinator. He might not be a great head coach, but he's a really good offensive coordinator. And we saw what Mac was able to do with a good offensive coordinator. And yes, you can call it a sham Pro Bowl, but he still played well enough to be an alternate to make it to the Pro Bowl. And he had a pretty good rookie year. And the Patriots had really no plan to fill that hole left over. It was, oh, we'll just bring in Matt Patricia. He's a football coach, and he's my buddy. And that's blown up in their face. It's blown up in their face. And then Bill Belichick not locating the resources correctly when he signed free agents either. That's been the other part of this, is that, do I like Kendrick Bourne? Yes, I do. And they should have used him more in whatever stupid comment or action that Kendrick Bourne did maybe in the preseason to get on the bad side of Patricia. Patricia, be the bigger man and let it go. I don't care what happened. I really don't care, unless obviously it was something that was actually very vulgar and heinous or whatever happened. If that was the case, then yeah. But you would think they would have kicked him off the team. I'm just saying, whatever it is, get over it, Patricia, because you've had one of your better weapons put on the shelf for most of the season, where when he's out there, if he's run 20 plays, you haven't drawn anything up for him. And you haven't gotten guys like Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith that much involved. And it's just utter malpractice is what's happened. And just Bill Belichick has not brought in the right personnel as far as on offense. Mac Jones needs playmakers. And I know, I'm not trying to say Mac Jones needs this to be perfect. He doesn't need it to be perfect. I don't think he's that much of a game manager. But I don't care if you brought Tom Brady back here. Give me Aaron Rodgers. Give me Patrick Mahomes. Yes, would the offense look better? Would it look competent? Yeah, it would look competent. But guess what? You don't have those dynamic playmakers out there when it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 12, when you're pushed back and the game's on the line. You don't have that one guy that you can turn to and be, okay, this offense is stalling, but we're still in this game. We can get back. We can win it. You don't have a Jamar Chase. You don't have a Justin Jefferson. You don't have a Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle or Stephon Diggs. Or an AJ Brown. You don't have one of those guys. Guess what? Teams were trading them left and right last offseason. And you didn't do squat. You just said, no, we're good with what we have. And it just pisses me off. It does, because you're not supporting your young franchise quarterback, and now you're messing with his career. Have you broken him permanently. I don't think he's beyond repair. I don't think so. At least that's what I believe. You can still fix this, but it starts with you have to fire Matt Patricia. I don't care if he's your best friend in the whole world. Reassign him to the front office again. But his ass cannot be on the sideline coaching the offense next year. It just can't. It can't. You have to get rid of him. You do. So, and then bring in a legitimate offensive coordinator. Whether that means getting Bill O'Brien, opening up the pocketbook for Bill O'Brien, do it. That's what I think you should do. Is obviously because there's no cap for coaches. So if you have to overpay to get a good offensive coordinator, do it. You have to help Mac's career. So you have to bring in that offensive coordinator as well as bringing in a number one playmaking option, whether that's preferably, I would like that at wide receiver, or if you can get that at tight end, which is harder to find. I don't know if there's going to be anybody available in the trade market because unless you can get DeAndre Hopkins, because it sounds like he might want out, and there's the whole shaking hands with Bill Belichick. So if you can get DeAndre Hopkins, bring him in here. That's a legitimate number one. Or if you can get somebody in the draft, or preferably you go get DeAndre Hopkins because he's a little up there in age because he came out in the 2013, 2014 draft. But you go get DeAndre. And then after DeAndre in the draft, maybe the first or second round, you try to get somebody and develop them. And maybe not Belichick pick them. Maybe you hire somebody else that can help oversee the draft and get those playmakers. So it's been awful. And what they've been doing to Mac is just awful as far as not giving him the correct coaching. Well, I mean, not giving him the right weapons and not giving him the right coaching. And we've just seen what's happened here lately. And it's just awful. And it feels like this team, because you've heard just how they kind of talked post game about what's going on. You could just kind of tell in the mood with just how things are kind of, I don't know if maybe there is starting to be a little bit of a rift between the players and the coaching staff, just because with how Belichick in the post game press conference, when they asked him about throwing a Hail Mary, he basically said that he didn't say Mac. He never uttered the word Mac doesn't have the arm strength, but just the way that he phrased, well, we couldn't throw the ball down there. Well, who's your quarterback? Mac Jones is. And then just some of the comments that have come out, it just seems like maybe there's starting to be a little bit of rift. The players are starting to get upset, which I don't blame them. I'm talking the offensive guys. The defensive, you don't hear a lot out of them. But the offensive side of the ball, it just seems like they are pissed off. They're done. They just want somebody else in there. And you can still repair it with Bill. I still think Bill you can repair it with, but it's the rest of the offensive staff that I think if any of these guys come back next year, and I'm talking like those wide receivers like the Kendrick Bournes or the Aguilars or the Devontae Parkers, any of those guys, I can tell you that probably they might just rise up and have a coup of their own if they don't get a good offensive coordinator that comes in. And that's the one thing that if you're Robert Kraft, this is your team. This is your money that Bill's effing with. And Robert Kraft is not like, somebody that runs a team that we're going to talk about here in a minute, like John Henry, that, this is just part of my portfolio. No, Robert Kraft is from Massachusetts. What's he from? Brookline or Watertown? I can't remember, but he's pretty much in a suburb right outside of Boston. I'd have to look it up, but the point is he's a Massachusetts, New England native. He grew up freezing his ass off in those metal bleachers at Foxborough Stadium. So he grew up an actual fan of the team. And so didn't his kids, because he brought his kids with him, like Jonathan, who's going to take over for this team. This is a family ownership that wants to win badly. We know how much it hurts Robert Kraft when they don't get some of those primetime games, because he wants to be the center of attention. He's a more subdued Jerry Jones. And when I say subdued Jerry Jones, he's not brash as far as out there publicly on radio shows talking all the time, and he's not the GM trying to be the GM of his team. But he does get upset, like when his team doesn't get all those primetime games, because he wants to have that spotlight, and he wants to be back as the jewel of the NFL. You can see he loves. I know I just said he doesn't do a lot of interviews, but when he does, like when they're in the postseason, he loves being in front of those cameras when they get to the Super Bowls and chatting it up and yucking it up with everybody. So this has to hurt. And we know Kraft has come out over the last couple of off seasons. We know he had those comments about he's not happy with not winning a playoff game for 3 years. And the way things are looking right now, it's going to be 4. Because remember, in Brady's last year, they lost in the divisional round of the Tennessee Titans. So we know Kraft already is not happy with what's happening as far as the playoff success. So if you keep effing with his money, and and when I say if you're Belichick, and if you don't get rid of Patricia or just get him off of the offensive coaching staff, then if you're Kraft, you have to go to Bill and maybe not fire him. I don't think you would ever fire him, but that's when you have to kind of lay your foot down again. Maybe not to the same extent that you did with Bill Parcells, where it chased him out of town, but you have to be straight up with Bill. Like, we can't bring Patricia back. There's way too much fire. It's not just a bunch of smoke. There's an actual fire happening here, and we have to put this out, because we have a good quarterback in Mac that we can trust, but we're just not supplying him with the right coaching. So this is a situation where if you're Kraft, you have to make sure. And if the only time I think if you to fire Bill is like if it gets so bad to the point where there's so much nepotism down there that he's not willing to get rid of Patricia off the offensive staff, then that's where you might have to have a very, very serious conversation with Bill, because God, I love him. He's the greatest coach of all time, but he is just making some head scratching decisions with who he's brought in. So I'm just so fed up with what's going on with this coaching staff. It's just pissing me off, and I just can't. I don't even know how Robert Kraft is dealing with it himself. He has to, when those cameras are off and when the game is over, he's going to be sitting there like, how can this happen? And I mean, if you want to put like a little tiny drop of positivity in this, they're still technically live for the playoffs. But again, this is a hard road they're going to have to go down. You have to play Cincinnati this Saturday. You have to play the Dolphins at home, and then you go up to Buffalo. So those are 3 playoff teams in a row. And 2 of the 3 are 2 of the preseason favorites for the AFC. It was pretty much Buffalo, Kansas City, and Cincinnati. Now, obviously, Miami's turned themselves into a pretty good squad. But my God, it is just it's not going to be easy at all. So they have a lot in front of them here, and I think they can at least steal one. They can get one game. I think it'll probably be the Miami game is the one that'll win. Can you squeak out one? Can you squeak out this Saturday? Because I just think Buffalo is just to take one from Pedro Martinez. They're your daddy. right now. They are. Remember a while ago when Brady was here, you were Buffalo's daddy. You beat the ever-loving crap out of Buffalo for 20 years. For 20 years, Buffalo was your bitch. Now the roles have been reversed. And it's not fun. So I don't think you're going to win in Buffalo. So if you have any shot in hell to make the playoffs, you're going to have to start with getting this one against the Bengals, because if you lose against the Bengals, you can pretty much kiss your season goodbye, because that's you right now you're facing Miami, you're facing down Miami, the Jets, the Chargers. They're all within a game or two of each other. Obviously, right now the Dolphins are 8-6, so they have that last wild card spot. But you're facing you're for that last spot to get in. You're still looking at the Jets and at the Chargers. So, man, it's a long climb there, and I just don't think they have it in them, as far as, because with the issues they have offensively going on right now. There's a lot you're going to have to go through in the offseason, and we'll definitely, trust me, we'll have a lot of time to chronicle what they're going to have to do here. Now, one offseason that we were hoping had some better news has absolutely gone down the shitter. It has. It has so bad. And I'm talking about the Boston Red Sox. Now, we knew how critical this was going to be after the season ended, because we knew Rafael Devers and other key number of Red Sox were free agents. And the biggest one of them all, Xander Bogaerts, as we mentioned off the top of the show, he is now calling San Diego home for the next 11 years. 11 years for $280 million. Man, it must be nice to be Xander right now. Not only did you get a boatload of money, you go to a franchise that actually gives a shit about competing for titles, and not one that's trying to act like they're the Tampa Bay Rays or the Arizona Diamondbacks or the Pittsburgh Pirates. No, they went to a team that's actually trying to compete for World Series titles, trying to knock off the Braves in their own division. I'm sorry, the Dodgers in their own division. So they lost Xander Bogaerts to the Padres. And I mean, I didn't have any hopes of them signing Carlos Correa, just because I knew if they weren't going to pay for Xander, Carlos Correa was going to get a $300+ million deal, which he eventually ended up technically getting from two teams, and one of them didn't go through. And after the physical fell through for the Giants, he got picked up like 3 hours later by the Mets. So I just knew if Carlos Correa was going to get that much money, it was going to get a $300 million deal. There's no way the Red Sox were going to do that after not giving it to Bogaerts. The only one that I had like a 1% to 2% chance of any hope was Dansby Swanson. And I know people like Dansby Swanson, and I like him as a ball player. He's a really good defender. He's got some speed, and the power started to come on. It's he's hit 26 and 28 home runs the last couple of years. So he's developed a little bit of pop, but I mean, he's a good player. He's better than solid. He's better than average. I wouldn't call him a superstar, but he's a really good shortstop. And he's a guy that has started to become a pretty good offensive player. Not a great one, but a really good offensive player. So that was one that I thought you had a chance to go get. You didn't. And then the Red Sox have lost out on Brandon Drury, who they were supposedly on, who they were the most annoying phrase that has just driven me crazy all off season. interested in. I swear to God, if I hear that effing phrase interested come again, when it's regarding the Boston Red Sox, I'm going to lose my ever loving mind, because every effing time there was a story about a player in free agency, like well, not Xander Bogaerts, because they were interested, but I'm talking about, you throw it for any of those top tier free agents that were out there. Oh, we're hearing they're interested in Dansby Swanson. They're interested in Carlos Correa. They're interested in Wilson Contreras. They're interested in Segna. They're interested. And what kept going on and on and on. It's like, and Jose Abreu was the first one in the offseason, and that one didn't end up well. It's ridiculous. My ears are going to bleed if I have to hear that stupid "we're interested" and it involves the Red Sox again. You're not interested. You're jerking us around. You're playing us for fools. You're messing with the wrong franchise, the wrong fan base. We're not stupid. This is one of the most educated, knowledgeable, hardcore, die-hard fan bases in baseball, and if not all of sports. And you're treating us like we're the effing Tampa Bay Ray fans or Arizona Diamondback fans who baseball only has been in their market for the last 30 years or 40 years, whatever it's been. We're not expansion teams. This is one of the original franchises. We actually give a shit about this team. And you're treating us in this franchise like a third-class franchise, like we're a bottom feeder. It's ridiculous. And as we mentioned, they didn't have a backup plan. At least they ready to go out of the box backup plan for Xander. And don't get me wrong. Marcelo Meyer was one of the top prospects coming out of high school, and not just at shortstop, but he was considered to be the best player in high school and college baseball in the 2021 draft. He's been called a generational talent. He's one of those guys that profiles to hit for average, to develop into being a 25 to 30, 35 home run player. So a guy that's got power, speed, and pretty good glove at short. So we're talking about a guy that has potential. This is the key word, potential, to be a star. But again, putting your eggs in the basket, shoving all of them forward like Chaim Bloom has done with prospects, is a very, very dangerous game to play. And not even with the Red Sox. It's a dangerous game to play if you're running the Kansas City Royals or the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, it does work. We've seen it work, but you have to hit on your prospects. You have to make sure you hit. You have to. And God, I hope they do I hope Marcelo Meyer is that type of can't miss prospect. I really do. Because if he is not, this franchise is royally screwed. Because he's the jewel of this rebuild. We can't put it any other way. This is a rebuild, folks. This is not a retool. This is a rebuild. Because they've torn down the studs, all except for one. There's one remaining. And his name is Rafael Devers. And we'll get to him in a second. But this franchise, this front office and ownership group does not prioritize bringing back their own. They don't. It's been that way since John Lester in 2014. and it's so upsetting. It just makes my blood boil. Why don't you want to bring back your own homegrown stars, the ones that can prove, that have proven time and time again that they can function under the weight of this market? And yes, is this is not the mid to late 90s through the early 2000s, so from what 95 all the way to 2004, before they finally broke the 86-year-old curse, where it was every decision was scrutinized and picked apart with tweezers, surgically taken apart. The smallest moves were, and that was a gigantic fishbowl, and you had nerves of steel to play in this town, because in this region, because you would get eaten alive. Now, this is still a very tough town. Obviously, all the winning has kind of softened us a little bit, but when I say softened, I mean it's not like we're so desperate to win, as far as, oh man, this has been over 100 years now. I just want one win. I mean, we've have 4 World Series titles now, so but still, the hunger in this city is still there. It's still, again, it's still, in my opinion, yes, I'm biased, the best sports market in the country, the most rabid fans. And you had guys like, it started from Lester, then it went to Mookie Betts, it went to Xander, and God, I'm just holding on and praying that the fourth time is the charm when it comes to Rafael Devers. I mean, I'm not, don't misunderstand or misstrew anything here. I am not overly optimistic that anything's going to happen. I am so worried that he's out the door. And talking about Rafael Devers, and then the latest reports from June Lee of ESPN say that the Red Sox and Devers are galaxies apart on the contract, and the Red Sox, in their impotent wisdom regarding Devers, have said that they are willing to go beyond their comfort zone. They're willing to push beyond that, but to a certain extent. So Rafael Devers he's got all the leverage. He's got the Red Sox by the balls. It's like, if you want me to stay, you have to pay me out the nose. You got to give me what I want. Now, Rafael Devers is young enough where he's 26 years old. And he's, in my opinion, he's worth it. Back up the Brinks truck, back up 50 of them that has $360 million. Hell, I'd even go to $400 million on Rafi, because you have to have something to build with. You have to. You can't let this be another Mookie Betts, another Xander Bogaerts, another John Lester. You can't just have these guys keep walking out the door. This is the Boston effing Red Sox. This is a franchise for what the Fenway Sports Group has owned this since they purchased it in November, December of 2002. So effectively their first season was 2003. So 15, 16 years of ownership, or whatever it's been, up until 2018. So for 14 years, whatever it's that 12 years, whatever the math works out on being with that, for 18, 14 years, whatever it's been, over that span, they would shell out money to get guys to come here. They paid for, they went out, they traded for Kurt Schilling, paid him an extension. They went out. They would get guys like J.D. Drew. They got Daisuke Matsuzaka. They traded for Josh Beckett, extended Josh Beckett. They went out and signed Carl Crawford, traded for Gonzalez, gave Gonzalez a contract. They when they saw a need, they went out and addressed it. And they kept up until John Lester in 2014. They would keep guys around. They gave Dustin Pedroia a long-term extension. Now, yes, did Dustin Pedroia get hurt? He did. There's no way around that. He got hurt in 2017, and what those last 4 years of that deal that he had left, that went out the window. But for the longest time, this franchise, remember when the Red Sox when the John Henry group first took over the Boston Red Sox back in 2003? I remember Larry Lucchino went up and they had an ownership group, at least back then they had an ownership group that was willing to do anything to get this team a World Series title and compete with the Yankees and not be pushed over and be the nail to the hammer anymore. They were going to be the hammer and knock back against the Yankees. They were what the Mets and the Padres are right now. The Mets and the Padres right now are they spending like drunken sailors? Hell yeah. But guess what? They're going for a title. They're going for it. They are. And the Red Sox, who used to do that, have been castrated. And it wasn't, and they did it on their own volition. The owners of the Red Sox, John Henry and Tom Warner, but John Henry's the principal owner, for whatever reason, after Dave Dombrowski in 2019 failed to bring back another championship, get a back-to-back World Series, what happened in that case? What happened? We know, and it was they fired Dombrowski. They wanted to cut back on costs, and yes, I know Henry has owned Liverpool. He bought him back in 2013, but this group has well expanded. They have a NASCAR group. They sold Liverpool. They got $5 billion for it. Now they're looking to buy. It looks as though they're getting ready to purchase an NBA expansion team. It looks like, I think, right now, and that's the rumor. The latest rumors is that they're going to, and then they're looking to possibly be in the bid for the Washington Commanders if Daniel Snyder ends up selling or if he gets forced out. So to John Henry, the Red Sox, who used to be his gem, the team that he actually at one time cared about, he no longer, at least this is how it feels. I don't have firsthand accounts. I don't have reports. I'm just going off of how this feels as a fan. It doesn't feel like he cares anymore. This just feels like this is part of his portfolio. The Red Sox, because of Fenway Park, is this gigantic tourist destination. It's this gigantic money maker where people flock to it in the middle of the summertime because it's this legendary ballpark. Oh, and the Red Sox are this big time brand. We've won 4 World Series titles, and we'll try to stay competitive and make the playoffs and just be competitive enough that people want to come to see how far this team can, to see what can happen. It just doesn't feel like they're fully committed. And in the front office and the president of baseball operations and the chief president, Sam Kennedy, and then the president of baseball operations, Chaim Bloom, have continuously passed down the message from Henry and have continuously lied, open-faced lied to us, lied, time and time again. How many times since April of this year did we hear Xander Bogaerts is our top priority? Extending Rafael Devers is one of our other top priorities. I heard that till I was blue in the face. And obviously you had to kind of sit there and be like, Well, we can only take them at their word. We only can, and obviously we had to take this with a grain of salt because we knew what happened with Mookie Betts. But it's just ridiculous. Every time Sam Kennedy and Chaim Bloom speak, I don't trust a single word that comes out of their mouth. They have a lot to do to earn my trust and the rest of the Red Sox Nation's trust back. Because they've burnt that bridge. And not just, it's kind of still standing. Maybe we can repair a little bit. They've burnt it to the ground. Because for some reason, they want to turn this franchise into the Tampa Bay Rays, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Arizona Diamondbacks. For what? For what end? Yeah, because you know this giant money maker that you have? Red Sox fans aren't going to sit there and just go to the ballpark. I sure as hell don't want to go to Fenway Park, pay $12 for one 16-ounce beer. One goddamn beer, then pay another $50 just to have a cheeseburger, a slice of pizza, and fries, and maybe a bottle of water. So I paid $70 just for something that shouldn't even cost. It should maybe cost me $30 if I go to a restaurant or somewhere else. But I don't want to pay $12 for one effing beer and then pay $60, $70 for decent seats. And guess what happens? The Red Sox are down 6-0 in the third inning because you don't have a starting rotation. You don't have a good order beyond Devers and Trevor Story. What do you have? What do you have? What do you have that draws me and all the rest of these lifelong diehard Red Sox fans? You don't have, yes, obviously I'm a diehard enough where I'm still going to follow his team. I'm still going to watch him on Ness, and even though this product is trash, it just means that if I have something better to do in the middle of the summertime, I'm probably going to go off and do that because I don't want to devote my hard-earned time to watching trash out there on the field because you as a front office refuse to invest in this product when the rest of us care and pour our time and effort, heart and soul into this franchise and this team that we've loved since we were little kids. And you, over the last 4 years, have done nothing but just chase away your stars and have not invested in this franchise. And you expect us to sit there and eat this shit sandwich? No, I refuse to sit here and eat that shit sandwich. I refuse. This is ridiculous. You want to shove all this down our throats that, oh, we're going to sign these players. And I remember, I feel bad for Kike Hernandez because Kike Hernandez, what was it, September? In an interview after he signed his extension, I was promised that we're going to be not better, but just a lot. We're going to be a lot better next. We're going to get better in the offseason. And then Chaim Bloom lied to our face and said, "Oh, we'll bring in 8 to 9 players, but not just any players. We're going to go and get good players." Guess what, Chaim? You didn't. And yes, I know the offseason is over, and I know people like. You look in comment sections of whatever sports pages online that you look at, whatever social media. Well, the offseason's not over yet. You can still make trades. You need a front end ace of this rotation to anchor this rotation. And then that you need that. And then you'll need probably another veteran starter in there that could be a 2 or a 3. Because depending on what happens with Chris Sale and Jonathan Paxton, and obviously if you bring back a Nathan Eovaldi, but there's just not enough in the starting rotation. You need that ace. You need the number 1 to build with. Then you need to finish building out the rest of the rotation. Then, oh yeah, you lost Xander Bogaerts. You don't have a shortstop right now. Yes, you can. I know Trevor Story was a shortstop for a long time in Colorado, but his arm is not the same. You could see he's wearing that compression sleeve. His just didn't look as comfortable for him throwing. So to me, he's got to stay over at second base where he was a really good, until he was getting hurt, he was a gold glove second baseman. He adapted pretty well. So he should stay over at second base, be a power hitting second baseman. You don't have an internal option that I look at and I'm like, okay, I feel comfortable. All the options that you give me that are internal just are below average, to be kind. And we know the long-term solution. He's still at least a year away in Marcelo Meyer, because he's what, I don't even know if he's at AA Portland yet. I can't remember if he's I think he's at high A Salem. So I would imagine he'll probably start the year in Portland this year. But the future of your franchise, well, I mean, it should be Rafael Devers. Like I said, like I was talking about earlier, you need to back up the Brinks truck for him. It's just you have to fill that hole at short. You have to fill the middle of that order out besides just Devers. It's Devers and Story, but okay, so Devers hits 2, what Story's going to be your 3-hole hitter, and then you got a 4, 5, and 6. You have no protection in that lineup to help out Devers and Story. And okay, I know I did forget about Justin Turner. Justin Turner, yes, he's a good player. I like Justin Turner. He might bring a little leadership to this team, but he's not the type of impact. Like if you brought Xander Bogaerts back, and then maybe you got another outfielder to go along with Yoshida, then having Justin Turner there, because then you would have a decent core there between Devers, Bogaerts, Story, and then if Justin Turner is your 5th or 6th guy in the order, then I can live with that. But Turner to be what, your cleanup guy now? And at this point of his career, there might have been like a point when he was in his early 30s, when he was with the Dodgers, where actually Justin Turner was a pretty good bat. I don't know, and don't get me wrong, I think Justin Turner still has something left, but I don't think it's to be the middle of your order bat right now. And I don't know what Yoshida has. And a bright spot on this team could be Tristan Casas. If Tristan Casas can come up and start to rake this year, hit 20 bombs, hit 255 to 265 in that neighborhood, and if he shows we have something there, as long as he's not Bobby Dahlback, and if he can come up and hit at a decent clip, hit 265, and like I said, hit 20, 25 home runs, and you look at it and like, and it's consistent, not like Bobby Dahlback where it's like for 2 weeks I get hot as hell, and then the rest of the season I'm Jackie Bradley Jr. or worse than Jackie Bradley Jr. and I just can't hit a lick, and I strike out a million times. So if we get Tristan, and Tristan Casas is a totally different player. He's got a better strike zone. Even though he didn't hit for the average when he came up, we saw that he could control the strike zone. He can draw walks. He can get on base. So so that's a bright spot there, because Tristan Casas was your number 2 prospect behind Marcelo Meyer, and he was a really good player down in the minors. And he has the potential to be that middle of the order bat for this team. He does. But it's just ridiculous, because you're putting so much pressure on the kid to be a middle of the order bat when he's barely had a cup of coffee in the majors. So it's pretty much Rafael Devers and Trevor Story or bust. And really it's Rafael Devers or bust, because Trevor Story had a bunch of injuries last year, and got off to a rocky, slow start to begin his Boston tenure. And it was just, I felt bad for Trevor because he's a good player. It's just, he's the guy that after he signed, everybody viewed him as the replacement for Xander. And sure as shit, he is the replacement now if he gets put over to short, depending on how they view that arm. And he's in, I do not envy his position. Even though he's a good player, I just don't envy that position because they put him in a really rough spot. And then to even top everything off, it's what's the future plan here? What's the plan? What is the plan? To build with the farm system, like with the Rays, the Pirates, the Diamondbacks? I know I sound like I'm a broken record, but my God, what's the plan here? We're the Red Sox. We have all this. There's so much money that this team has, but yet we can't bring back our players. We can't go sign free agents. We can't improve this team, but yet we have to watch guys walk. We have to watch our superstars walk or get traded and sign massive contracts. We have to watch Xander Bogaerts for the next 11 years out in San Diego. Oh, no, yeah, you know what a personal kick in the nuts is? I know this is going to sound so bitchy and so childish, but because my birthday is May 21st, and you know what's on schedule for the Red Sox that day, or that weekend from May 19th to the 21st, the Red Sox travel to San Diego to go play the Padres. So I get to watch Xander Bogaerts shove it down the Red Sox throat. So yeah, thanks Red Sox. That's gonna be a nice birthday. I know I sound childish there, but as soon as I saw them, like, oh, that's great. But the point being is here that we've had to watch Mookie Betts because he go win a World Series and have an MVP caliber season last year, because 2020 was a little odd for him, but last year and this year he got back to his MVP form. So it's just ridiculous. Why? Why is it like this? Why is it like this for the Red Sox? You're the Boston Red Sox. You're not supposed to be a poverty franchise. You're supposed to be one of the cream of the crop franchises in all of sports, for Christ's sake. And now we're at the bottom of the barrel. We're a laughing stock. And it's ridiculous. And it's so hard because I want to root for this team and I want to watch competitive baseball. And I don't feel, and from Jump Street, from April, I feel like this team is going to be garbage. And I know people want to say, oh, the season's not over, they can make trades. It's Chaim Bloom who prizes every prospect. He probably treasures the number 50th prospect the way he treasures the number 5 prospect in this organization. The man will never. That's why I was surprised last year when they went and got Kyle Schwarber that he gave up the 15th best prospect, and I'm sure that gutted him that he had to give up a top 15 to get somebody. Do you really, as much as I want them to go and trade for Shane Bieber or Corbin Burns or one of those top tier starters out there on the market, or get Brian Reynolds from Pittsburgh who could provide some pop? Do you think that's going to happen? Chaim Bloom treasures his prospects more than he probably treasures his own children. Pull out the Charlton Heston line. It'll pry it from my cold, dead fingers. That's how he views his prospects, folks. Now, listen. I want a balance build. I want to bring in free agents. But I also want to develop homegrown guys, i.e. Mookie Betts, Xander Bogaerts, Rafael Devers. Those are guys that you develop, but guess what? You also have to pay them so they don't leave town. And you supplement with free agencies and other trades. And then guess what? That's how you won your 4 World Series championship teams. You had homegrown guys and free agents. But now Chaim Bloom, if you think this offseason still isn't over and that they can make moves, you have your head so far up your ass that you're not going to be able to see sunshine for 3 months. Because wake up and smell the coffee, folks. This franchise, if you think they're going to make any massive move here to shake things up in this offseason, you're wrong. You're wrong. And it kills me to say that. I wish they would go out and make those moves. I am dying for them to make those moves. I want to wake up tomorrow and see that they've signed Rafael Devers to a 12-year, $350 million deal. I'm praying for that, and I'm praying to wake up tomorrow and see that they traded for Shane Bieber or Corbin Burns. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Because Bloom treasures these prospects so much and wants to build within and keep sustainability. You're not going to have a damn thing to sustain if you don't sign these players, because you know what's going to happen to Marcelo Meyer and Tristan Cautious if they live up to their expectation and their ceiling. If this franchise doesn't want to pay Mookie Betts, doesn't want to pay Xander Bogaerts, they're just going to walk out the door, the same as these last players have. What's stopping them from doing that if you don't want to pay guys right now? I've wasted a lot of energy on this podcast about them tonight, moaning about it, but it just irritates me. It really does. I want this to be a competitive team. I know you can't win every single year. I understand that. But what I want is a competitive team every year. I want to at least say, okay, there's a shot at them. And I understand you're going to have to go through some reset years. But to be in a market, in an organization that is so literally rich with resources, to sit there and hoard it like you're the Miami Marlins have, what are we doing? What are we doing? If you're not going to give us a good product, John Henry, sell the team. Sell the team to somebody who cares. Sell it. Because I know I'm speaking for a majority of Red Sox Nation. If you're not going to put a competitive product out on the field, and if you're going to treat us and expect us to go out there and pay these exorbitant prices for tickets and food, beverages, and souvenirs when we go to the ballpark, and you're going to put this pile of crap out in front of us and expect us to sit there and smile and eat it, you are wrong. You're not treating us with the proper respect that we should garner for fans of this magnitude. That we deserve better. Like I said, I know we can't win every year. I know that's so unrealistic, but I'm talking about putting a good product out on the field where it's entertaining and we're going to at least have a decent shot at making the postseason. At least put the effort out there. And you haven't put the effort out there. And if you're not going to, and you're going to treat this like it's just part of your portfolio and part of your whole business plan, then I don't want you here. I want somebody who cares, who puts the effort into winning. I want what happened back in 2003, 2004, as far as, damn the torpedoes. I'm going to spend every resource I have and bring players in here to win a world championship. And you haven't done that for the last 4 years. We got lucky in 2021 because they still had the majority of their core together and they stayed healthy and they made it to the American League Championship Series. But now that feels like that was 5 years ago and it was only 1 year ago. And this franchise feels like it's going to be an eternity until they're competitive again. God, I hope I'm wrong. I hope they can turn it around quicker, but I don't have any faith in this front office. I'm so done with this front office and this ownership group. I'm done with them. I'm still going to, obviously, I'm still a Red Sox fan. I'm still going to watch them. I'm still going to root for them. I love them to death. I'll be a Red Sox fan until the day I die. I love them, but my God, they're testing my patience, and I'm getting sick of this. I'm getting so sick of it. So hopefully, like I said, I don't have a lot of faith they're going to make moves, but I hope as we get into the winter, after the holidays, maybe in January, before we get to spring training, that maybe we'll get a Rafael Devers extension. Maybe they come to their senses and pay him a lot of money. Maybe they come to their senses and they make some good trades to bring guys in. Like I said, I don't think it's going to happen. But I th- I hope so. I'm hoping beyond hope. Let's get to something that maybe is going to be a little bit better here for you folks. We'll try to brighten your day up, because I know we've talked about a few depressing things in the sports world here when it comes to the Red Sox and the Patriots, who just haven't been providing us with the proper entertainment. It's been more of the Greek tragedy, if you will. All right, maybe not that bad, but it just hasn't been good. It's been bad. It's like going into watching because I love Marvel and Star Wars movies. It's like being so anticipated to watch those movies. That's stuff you love, and you go in and you're like, well, that was crap, or that was just another movie. It wasn't what I wanted, but they just slapped the logo on it. That's kind of what it feels like right now with the Patriots and the Red Sox. At least the Patriots are in the race for a playoff spot. Whether they are legitimately going to actually do it, we don't know. But the Red Sox just feel like they're way further down the pipe than the Patriots are. But without further ado, we'll try to bring a little bit of happiness here and try to put a little cash in your wallet here this weekend. As remember, there are Saturday games this week, Saturday and Sunday games, as there are some interesting matchups here on the board as we take a look. And one of these games that's going to be an interesting one is that Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, we don't know right now if Jalen Hurts is going to be out there. Been some reports that he may be out of this game. So even if he comes back, I would be swayed for Philadelphia, but so this might be a place to right now take advantage, because Philadelphia is the underdog. They're 5-point underdogs, but this might be where you jump in on Philly right now if you still want to. But this is an intriguing matchup where obviously it's here for the taking for the Cowboys. So I'll take the Cowboys and the over this weekend, and give me a CeeDee Lamb touchdown in this game. So that probably gets you to somewhere in the neighborhood of +4 something on that. So you wager $20, you're going to get a nice little payout there, and over like $120. So that could be a nice little payout there if you take that game. So that's one of the games that I do love this weekend, and I would love to bet. And then remember, that's a Saturday game, as there's some Sunday ones as well here. They're going to be on the board, but that for me is one of my favorite games. Another one here, if you're kind of looking for to kind of spread things out, that I do like, is going to be the Minnesota Vikings and the New York Giants. And this is obviously an important one for the Giants, as they're trying to get back into that playoff race as things are starting to slip away. But I like the Vikings in this one to take, as they just last week I was kicking myself. I could have won close to $1,200 because I didn't get home until later. So from being out shopping, and when I went to go place bets, I looked at the odds, and the Vikings were down 33-0 at half. They were plus 5,500. I screwed around. I just typed in the calculator on DraftKings and said, What's a $20 bet? Get me if they win. It would have been close to $1,200. But I said, no, that's not going to happen. I'm just going to waste money. Could have had $1,200. Could have had $1,200. I'm kicking myself for that. So, but I'm going to go to the Vikings this week. I'm going to take the Vikings, and I will take the 48.5. Oh, that's a lot, but I do like the Vikings to put up just enough in this matchup. So I'll take the Vikings and the over in this one. So that's another good matchup to look at there. So those are my two favorite ones to look at. The Patriots are actually not as bad of an underdog as I thought. They're only a 3-point underdog at home. So that could be a game where you could get a little bit of cash, but I'm not confident in that one. But that would be an interesting one if you have a little bit extra cash laying around. Maybe if your holiday shopping's done, you got in a bill and you get your bills out of the way. That might be one that I look into playing around with there. So there are some good matchups here this weekend that I would like to take. But again, the big one that I'm looking at is that Eagles and Cowboys game, which is the 4:30 game on Saturday. And again, I'm taking the Cowboys over in the 47.5 over against the Eagles in that game. All right. So one last little bit here is we'll get into some quick stardom and sit-ems here for your fantasy football weekend. Now, in the first sit-em here, I am going to go to Devontae Smith because even if it's the backup, I still think AJ Brown is going to get his. At least in a PPR league, you can still start him if you're in the playoffs. But for me, Devontae Smith, he is a little bit more reliant on some of those checkdowns and some of those the deeper shots down the field when it comes to Jalen Hurts. So I don't feel comfortable starting Devontae Smith if you do not have Jalen Hurts out there. So I would honestly, he's going to be my sit at wide receiver this week. Now, one guy that you might say, oh, this is kind of an obvious start, but of course, his running mate in Jamar Chase is the big dog. But for me, T. Higgins feels like this could be a pretty big week for T. Higgins because I feel as though the Patriots are going to try to utilize a lot of their resources in stopping Jamar Chase, which is going to give some opportunities here for T. Higgins to eat this week. So in my start at wide receiver, I'm going to go with T. Higgins, who gets the New England Patriots this week as far as your start of the week. Now, as far as your sit of the week, I'm going to go if you're in that situation, depending on who you have at running back. I don't like Leonard Fournette. He just hasn't put up any solid numbers since probably way back against that first Atlanta game back in week 5. I can't trust Leonard Fournette. I never have been able to. And I know he's in a decent Bucs offense, but he's kind of been pedestrian here over the last couple of weeks. So if you can stay away from Leonard Fournette in this matchup. And as far as my start of the week, that for me, folks, is going to be Jerick McKinnon, the running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now he's put up some big games here back to back, and he finally looks like he's carved out a spot in Kansas City's running back group here. Because remember, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the first round draft pick, but he hasn't really lived the expectations. He started off kind of hot this year. He's cooled off, and it looks like McKinnon's kind of taken up where he left off. So in this high-powered Chiefs offense where McKinnon can catch some passes, I like Jerick McKinnon if you're kind of searching for that start there at at running back. Now, at tight end, obviously this is always a crapshoot. So this is kind of where I'm just gonna, instead of giving you like a sit, where I'm looking at as far as a start for you, that's going to be TJ Hawkinson. And the reason I'm going with TJ is that they face the Giants this week, and the Giants are not a great pass defense. And they already have to worry about Justin Jefferson, who's probably going to tear him a new one. And this is where I think TJ Hawkins is going to eat up underneath in the middle there, get those PPR points, and I think he's going to be a pretty good red zone target in this game. So I think he could sneak in a touchdown in this one as well. So I love TJ Hawkinson as that start of the week at tight end. All right, folks. Well, that was a eventful podcast, if I do say so myself. Now, obviously, we will continue to monitor the Red Sox offseason and see if they do make any moves. Hopefully they do, so I can keep a little bit of my sanity. And of course, we will be back next week and break down that Cincinnati Bengals game and then get you ready for that showdown on New Year's Day with the Miami Dolphins. And then preview to see if they still even have a chance at the playoffs at that point. And of course, we'll keep you up to date with the Boston Celtics and the Boston Bruins as well. And of course, you can always tune in every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock for the live stream. Send in any questions during the live chat. And remember to hit the like and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications on YouTube. Or if you can't catch the live broadcast, you can always catch the show on Twitter, on Spotify or SoundCloud. Just remember to search New England Sports Weekly and you'll find the podcast. And remember, like and subscribe there as well. If you have any questions for the podcast, you can always send them to any of my social media outlets, which would be Sean at Sean_Met28 on Twitter, and same for Instagram as well. Or you can hit me up at the show accounts, which for Twitter is NE Sports NE Sports WK, and the same on Instagram as NE Sports WK as well. And send me any questions there, and we will try to answer any of those questions that you have. All right, folks. Well, I hope you have a good rest of your day. And of course, since it's the holiday here, I hope you enjoy your holidays. And if you celebrate Christmas, I hope you have a Merry Christmas on Sunday as well. And enjoy those holidays, folks. We'll be back next week and dive deeper into some of this craziness that's happening here in Boston sports.